All right. Welcome, everyone, to our July 1st Wappler Meetup. Um, my name is Mark. You can reach out to me in the forum as Mark1. If anybody's interested in presenting at a future Wappler Meetup, we'd love to hear from you. Today we have Mr. John Curley from the UK. Will be presenting just a phenomenal site. I mean, every time I see this, I just drool. It's not only beautiful, but the back end is amazing. That's today, but I want to let everybody know that on August 5th, we have Paul from South Africa, known as a PS Web on the forum, is going to be doing a live demo, creating a CMS using Wappler routing and leveraging Bootstrap frameworks and classes. So without further ado, I would like to introduce John Curley and say, take it away, John.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. So I shall share my screen and give you a little bit of background to the platform. So I've just put together a few points here about OrthoBridge. So this is a platform built, it's a fully integrated orthodontic practice and patient management system. It's cloud-based, obviously. It's multi-tenanted, so it's software as a service. We charge so much per month per clinical practice, and it's deployed globally. Built entirely in Wappler from the ground up. So when we looked at this, I was approached by some people who said, "Could you help out in the orthodontic world?" I had previously been in the cell and gene therapy industry with a technology called TrackCell that's now owned by private equity. So I was sort of looking for something to do, and had been playing with Wappler. So I thought, well, you know what? Let's do this with Wappler. So I picked the stack least familiar to me, which was the Node.js variant, Postgres, and we use AWS Lambdas as well. So if we need any specific or bespoke development in the cloud, we use Lambdas for that. And Lambdas they're developed in Python, and they're very, very resourceful, and they fire up and disappear. So it's completely serverless environment, other, of course, than Postgres on DigitalOcean. And that's the reason we're on Postgres on DigitalOcean, is that was the first database and platform that I actually managed to get working through the Wappler front end, and we've stuck with it since. We're sort of the glue that hold together a lot of third-party technologies out there. So these are all integrated natively into Wappler. Stripe for billing, Xero, which is the credit card, Twilio for email, calendaring and scheduling, sending out all those emails. We've got PDF generation, so we use PDF Monkey, which is, I would recommend if you want to do some pixel perfect PDF generation. Daily is for our telehealth, so we've got live web RTC video in the platform, so doctors can talk to patients in real time. We've got various referral systems, national health services and insurance companies plugged in. We use AirShare. We use their APIs to communicate on social, so things like Facebook and all the different social media platforms we can post out there. Jotform we use for patient data capture. If you have to fill out any medical consents or so on, we use the HIPAA compliant version of Jotform for that. We've integrated the Google API. So not only do we manage your patients, your practice, and a lot of medical scenarios, we also offer a marketing aspect. So we've integrated Google reviews, much like something like Bird Eye would do out in the wild. Amazon S3 is used for our storage. ClickSend is our platform of choice for SMS. We've had Twilio plugged in, and we prefer ClickSend. It's more economical and it's far simpler. Go Cardless we use for direct debits on a global basis. Google reviews. The NHS, which is the UK National Health Service provider, it's a behemoth, monolithic organization that does great good and has been a savior for the country during COVID. But we integrate with a lot of their systems, and you know, that's XML and Ajax. So it's it's quite some fun there in translating. There's two developers. There's myself, who's the lead, and there's one other, Ben, who's not here today. Ben is primarily focused on Amazon and the Python side, so all the front end and middleware is built in Wappler, and that's primarily by me. We had a recent acquisition offer, and we took independent valuation guidance. We had two offers actually in March, and the average of the two valuations was $5 million valuation. We decided we weren't quite ready to consummate at that value, so I think we'll spend another couple of years and maybe double or quadruple that valuation. And today I'm going to show you our demo platform, which is 1.2 million test patients and 30 million associated records, notes, images, x-rays, and files. And I think that's important because we're running on a $20 database server on DigitalOcean. And it's, 1.2 million patients is a lot more than any practice is going to have, but we always overload the database in development. So we know that when you go to a practice for 10 or 20,000 patients, it's going to outperform. And this is, as I say, this is on the lowest grade DigitalOcean database, which I think is $20, $25 a month, and 1.2 million patients. So that's just a little bit of background. I think people will find that interesting. The website can be found at orthobridge.eu or orthobridge.co.uk. And here we talk about some of the capability, accepting online payments. We've got some very detailed things like cephalometric analysis, which is a real-time evaluation of x-rays, determining various elements and aspects. And we do those to industry standards, HIPAA compliance standards. So I will show you that today. We've got letter generation, we've got video capture, telehealth video service, as we mentioned earlier. And yeah, integrated reputation management, Google reviews, and so on. So every patient following the meeting with the orthodontist will get an email welcoming them to review them on Google, which helps drive. Google reviews is such a huge thing now in most industries, particularly in dentistry and orthodontics. But not only do we get that feedback, we amplify those reviews on social media. So as soon as one post comes in with a good review, it's pushed out across a bunch of other platforms, and that drives further engagement in business. So, the numbers are out there. So what I shall do, I will log in to the system and take you through some of the capability within there. So it's obviously remembered from my last login. Things like if you've forgotten your password, you can click to reset and go ahead and send all of the usual stuff you'd expect to find on any system. So I'll go ahead and sign in as an orthodontist. And immediately I do, I'm presented with the practice I've signed into, which is TI Orthodontics. This is a test practice. So all the data is test data, as you'll see today. And I can see my appointments, 5 scheduled, 0 completed, 0 canceled, no failures. So it's just a very nice summary analysis of my appointments today and my appointments this month, obviously the first of the month. The waiting list within the practice, priority waiting lists, any last minute cancellations, health service waiting lists, an average analysis of my Google reviews, the average score this month and how many reviews we've had, and various claims summaries. So I can see there's 2 practitioners working in the practice. There's myself and there's Dr. Evans, and nobody's on holiday. So that's just one example. Now, if you've got a chain of practices, you can obviously switch, and I could log into another practice within the system. That completely takes me out of, it's multi-tenant, it's taking me into a new tenant at that stage. So just walking around the front end, on the left here, we've got patient flow, which shows us who's in the practice and as they move through the practice, where they are. We've got our practice diaries. We've got our patient search and failure to attend reporting. And I'm going to walk you through a lot of these. We've got waiting lists, customizable waiting lists, practice contacts, or business contacts like dentists and third-party providers. We've got integrated stock control, integrated growth, and so on. So it all starts there. So I've got a number of ways I can decide, okay, I want to do a patient search. You've got this always on search up here. So I could just look for, let's look for a Mark. and it will go and scan the 1.2 million patients and find all the marks that are in there. It returns the first 50. And you know, this, we can look for a mark B as an example. So we're using basically full text search capability. And you can, you know, if I put in my birth date, 28/6/1969, I'm sure it'll return anybody born on that date if I type the date in correctly, which I hadn't. So there's all sorts of powerful search capability within the system, and that's all again built on Postgres. 28/6. Sorry, my typing here is not very good. 28th of the 6th. There we go. So you'll find everybody there is born within that time scale. So that's one way of searching. The other is, as you see patients, they get added to your recently used list, and you can just jump into a patient file from here. So again, we're in a live practice. I'm logged in as Dr. Stevens. I can track my profile. I can switch practice. Everything is tracked to FDA compliance, CFR 21 Part 11 compliance from the FDA. So we've got full audit logging. So a good example here, I can manage my profile. So here you can see this is me. This is who I am. This is my profile. My email signature and my letters. We've obviously integrated Summernote. You can generate letters, my security password, my credentials. I set up my weekly workday schedule, so I can decide on a Monday between 8 and 12, I only want to work on certain patients and certain types. And this was added recently. And as you can see, it brings in some nice Wappler controls there. So I can decide I will treat gums and patients on those dates between 12 and 2. And that all filters into the real-time diary search. So it's that level of capability. The calendar within the system is built on full calendar, Wappler standard, but we have enabled a calendar feed, so I can plug that in there and get my calendar feed delivered directly to my smartphone if I want to take the work with me. So let's walk through the process. So from the point, we've got patient flow within the system. And again, with a lot of, we'll say, older technologies, they don't take full advantage of the web and all of these nice features like the slide in over the top. So our biggest competitor, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, you've got to drop out of the patient screen, go to another screen and click to see the patient flow. Here, wherever you are in the system, you just click that patient flow and it's available to you. Equally, you want to pull up your diary, you can literally flick between your diary and your patient flow instantly. We've got the month, we've got the date, we've got pretty much everything we need to see here. You know, you can colorize different entries based on different types, and you got the different views. So this will be familiar to anybody running Wappler. And patient flow, basically using the card system, which was a really good demo on Wappler. And patients, as they come in, they check in through a screen, or they can check in at reception, and we can just check them in and move them through the process. So we can move Theodora through the process from check-in right through to the specialist operatory. So here is Theodora's in the specialist operatory, and we've got Beth Wolf who's in the chair. So I can now click on Beth, and it will take me straight into the what we call the treatment chart for that patient. And this has loaded up everything related to the patient. So what we can do here, we can check their progression and key statistics, when they started, when we expect the treatment to complete, how many remaining days we've got in the cycle, any appointments they might have missed, or any failures, and we can see that. So it's a nice progression. This is the patient. If there's any billing overdue, we've got access to that. Any social promises, we've problems-free whitening for 12 months after completion. Everything is really to hand, and parents and guardians. So we've got the emergency contact there and the siblings. So I could open up this, I could drop into the sibling, clicking that and open it up in a new tab and see what other members in her family are working with us. And here within this patient, we can see there's a medical alert. So no ibuprofen for this particular patient. So if I we go back to just walk you through some of the capabilities. So we've got the patient live in the chair. They've been there for a lot of minutes. If I click on this tab, I get the patient treatment card. And this is today's visit. It's notes about the visit, the patient status, procedure codes that we're working on. And these are short codes to allow you to quickly add notes without typing anything in. So you can see there, I've just added notes to my summer note tab. Again, you've got full colorization within that. We've got consumables integrated. So if I've added some, and again, we've got thousands of consumables, but you've got excellent performance pulling up that. So I just hit enter on that and it will add the consumables. And all of that is tracking in real time across the stock control system. I can add appointments next to patient appointments. Over here, we've got a thing called aligner tracking. If you're familiar with the trays that people use to fix their teeth, we can set up those aligners here. We can set up how many aligners that the patient has. So a course of, say, 30, they're to be worn full time. We've delivered from sets 1 to 15, and we want them to change them every 10 days. And that will just go ahead, save that plan, and it will immediately update the aligner tracking back here, as you can see. And we can schedule, so the yellow squares, we can schedule interproximal, basically grinding of your teeth at certain times. So I can just pick that up and say, I want to do it at tray 12 and the upper right quadrant, and I want to do something when the upper tray hits tray 12. And that'll go ahead and do that, and it will highlight tray 12. So it gets highlighted in real time. All of that stored, that's not in a database, that's stored in a bog standard JSON-B field within the system. So it saves a lot of the relational overhead. Similarly, we've got things like event tracking and the mechanics. So that's some of the capability here. But if we follow through, we capture a lot of information about the patient, generalized information, treatment plans. I can go ahead and book an appointment for the patient, and I can decide now I want to find some time in the diary to do a debond. And in the afternoon, PM, 5-minute interval. And I can search way out into the future, or I can decide, look, find me some time today, or I can go years ahead and search over a range and find everything that's available within that time scale and break it down into 15-minute options. And I won't be available. So find me anything in that time period. You do the search and it'll immediately return 232 potential start times. Click on the start time, and there's all of the available options which I can book. Put the patient into a chair and confirm the booking. And that's it. The booking is now completed. And the patient, so there's a nice patient side to this. The patient will receive an email with a full calendar invite. If I log into the right inbox, they will. Scalaris, which is my handle. So what the patient will receive is a calendar invite. Oh, sorry. I'll come back to that. I've got some personal emails there that I don't want to expose at this stage. So we've got various history, and again, this is coming from multiple tables. We've got clinical notes. We can review notes and continue to review notes within the system. We've got a track of all the letters sent. So every letter, we can generate a letter to the patient very rapidly. So if I decide that I want to write the patient a letter, I can compose a letter, click on this, and I can just insert a letter template. So standard patient recall letter is an example, and it generates the letter there and then. It puts all the patient information in, it puts my signature in, and I can just click save and send, and it's done. It's generated the letter and sent it to the patient. So very, very powerful. And you can see here, it's generated the PDF and stored a record of that. So if I click on that, I can see the PDF that I've just generated. So you can see a huge time saving when you're communicating with patients here. And again, all of that is generating emails. So here's if I come back here, your orthodontic assessment, this is what the patient received. They can just click there and add it to their calendar instantly, so they're not going to forget. They'll also get an SMS appointment. They can even cancel it from here. You know, say they can't make it and they can decide to click to cancel. They'll be taken to a cancellation page within the practice. And again, it's all built on Wappler on that same basis. And here's the letter that the system just sent, and here's the PDF. So again, we feel it's very nicely, powerfully integrated. We'll look at some of the advanced clinical features. So we've got various assessment information. We've got treatment objectives, and we can build different stages of tag different things. But here's a good example of cephalometric analysis. So here's the patient. Here's a lateral scan we've taken of the patient. So what happens in orthodontics is you would typically, that looks painful. You would typically get one of these x-rays, put it up and draw lines on it. So there's solutions out there that allow you to draw lines and measure the angles. And it takes an orthodontist an hour to maybe over an hour to do this typically in a typical scenario. But using an AI platform, we've got a fully automated means of doing this. So I can basically calibrate this image and say, well, that's 90. That's the size of the image. Sorry, I'm going to clear these points. I don't actually have a mark. So X-rays typically come with a measurement ruler. Let me try and find one that's got it. Put a couple of these in. So X-rays, when they're taken, have ruler marks on them. None of these actually have one. It's a shame. I'll try and calibrate one regardless. So if I start here, I'll try and calibrate it without. Seems to have done it. Confirm. So that's now calibrated. So now I can run an analysis of that based on any one of a host of different standards, the American board. There's a whole host of these different ways to analyze an X-ray. So I can now run that careful. So what we see here, what's basically happening is the system has now taken that image and that calibration that I made. It's packaging up the image, it's zipping it up with the calibration information, sending it to a third-party server, and that third-party server is now analyzing that hundreds of points on that image as a lateral of the skull. When it's done that, it will package it up and send me back a full analysis. So it typically takes about 30 seconds to do this. That involves the transfer of files. So we can see that's underway. Now it's unpacking. So it's completed its analysis and it's unpacking all the documentation that we've received. And here it is. So what we've done there in that time is made all of these measurements to clinical standards, length of the lips, upper lip, tooth to lip relationships. And we've highlighted in red any of those that are outside the normal or the standard deviation, and by how much they're outside that deviation. Okay, so it's a very powerful means to analyze this, but we can now review the trace of this. And here's the trace that we've just run. As you can see, I can bring in all of the elements and all the tabular data that we've captured, and you can see the power of that over here. And that's given us all that information in real time. And here's all the measurements that were taken in that couple of seconds. And this is the difference between us and the rest of the industry. You know, we're bringing that AI directly to the orthos, and they can change that if they see something that they say, well, maybe I might have repositioned that slightly, and they can move points around by double clicking on them. But we haven't had anybody do that yet. So that's just one example of the capability within the system. I could recalibrate it should I wish. And all that information is available in real time. So yeah, the power of Wappler in action. Similarly for imaging, You can upload and manage images on a similar basis, patient images, and the images are uploaded and typically displayed as a matrix. So you view them as a matrix and you upload them as a matrix. On the mobile, so this is a fully responsive design. So on mobile, this will start the camera. On desktop, it will give you the opportunity to upload. We capture full patient history, all the related documents, and so on. Any questionnaires. So we've integrated here with Jotform. So I can run a patient assessment, but we're using all the power of Jotform within the system. So if I click on this, it will now go out to Jotform and open, as you can see there, a Jotform form. I complete that and it gets pushed directly back into via a Wappler webhook and straight back into the system. So very, very powerful. Another area is billing. So I can create a proposal for a patient. Let's create a proposal for this patient for $7,600 worth of work. And they've agreed to pay $1,000 up front by credit card. We'll send them a link for that. And they've agreed to pay that today. And then we're going to split the balance up. So we'll drag it over 12 months. They've agreed to pay $550 a month over 12 months. And they'll pay that by Bax credit card, direct debit, and they will start those payments at the end of next month. So we can now send a copy of the proposal to the patient and let them deal with it. So if I do that, that gets wrapped up and it creates a proposal within the system. And then the patient gets an email to say, here's the plan, take a look. If you're happy, you can go right ahead. So here is exactly what we're talking about. Here's a copy of the document that we've just sent them. And if they want to review and accept this proposal, they can click on that link there, and that presents the proposal. If they decide to accept the proposal, that will go ahead, inform the system, and deal with it, and give them the option to pay by card. So the patient can now go ahead and pay by card, fully integrated with Stripe. That will open up Stripe. They can put their billing details in. I'll go ahead and do that. My postal zip code in and pay. That goes right ahead, takes the payment off the Stripe. I'm obviously in test mode now, so I'm using a test credit card. So if anybody wants to record the information, feel free. It is a test card. And that we can see that profile has been paid and there's a down payment processed. So if we go back to the patient record on the system, we go to billing. We can see in the history of the billing that the payment received via credit card and zero has been updated in a PDF mod. So if we go into our billing here, we can see that what's happened since is this is now an active proposal. The patient has accepted it. We've created an invoice on Stripe. We've got a link there and we can view the card payment that they made. So if I click on that, I can jump directly into Stripe and view that card and view that transaction within Stripe. I'll come back. I'll need a code. For those of you who use Stripe, this will be familiar. But I think it's worthwhile going through all of the different steps. There's nothing canned here. This is all real time. And this takes us directly into, we've created a new patient within Stripe. As we can see, here's Beth. Here's the payment method. There's a full risk evaluation. And we've got all the related payments and a full receipt history. So back into OrthoBridge, we've also created an invoice for her in our Zero system. So if I click on that, this will take me straight into our Zero accounting system, which is again fully integrated through Wappler. And we can see the invoice, we can see the payment that she made today. So it's that whole end-to-end sort of seamless transition between finance, billing, medical. It's pretty much all there in one place. And we can review the customer's account on Stripe. We can track. We'll get a notification if they cancel the direct debits. So it's all there for us in real time. So that's some of the areas that we're tracking. So just a walk through the system. Other areas, if a patient fails to show up, we track those and we can chase them. So I can process this patient. They had a failure. I can add a note to their file, failed to attend. We can send them a recall text message, dear patient. We can send a letter we've assigned to email, and we can add them to another list, which is our recall list. So somebody within the practice will chase them within 1 month, 45 minutes. So if I save those options, that will now send a message to the patient, take them off this list and track them. And my phone will beep now shortly with an SMS message from the practice, because that's I'm the one receiving the SMS through the system, and that's through third party called ClickSend. So that's some of the key features within the system. We've got the idea of waiting lists, so we can add patients to waiting lists. I just added that last patient to a recall list. So if we jump in here, we can see that there they are. They've been added today by me. Obviously, we can jump straight into the patient record again and process and track them right through. So it's, you're not jumping around. It's easy. We can see here, booking cancelled, failed to attend, patient added to list, and we sent them a text message. Things like stock control, NHS claims, practice growth's an interesting one. We've integrated Google reviews, so we can see the reviews for this practice. We can encourage people to send complaints. We can track the individual reviews directly on Google. So here, these are real reviews. They're on Google. We can view them on Google, but it's bringing it into the practice and into the practice system. That's the real power of what we're doing here, to make it easy, and you can respond in line and so on. So it's quite a powerful area. And the other area is being able to benchmark your peers. So if you've got competitors in your locale and you want to see how you're doing against them, you can set up monitoring on the system for your competitors and see where you are against your competitors. And that's all managed through practice settings. So within your individual practice settings, you can manage things like procedure codes, practice setup, scheduling, your practice staff. You can set up new staff, set up their capabilities, what they can do within the system. You can set up all these system permissions here. When they see patients, what treatments they can call out. And if we go into the individual practice itself, we can configure our own third-party integrations. So here we set up a lot of the legals, a lot of the paperwork for the practice, appointment times, patient recalls, practice opening hours, NHS. So we connect to remote systems. We can connect with this information. So being able to configure this with a couple of points, our Stripe configuration, so we can use our own Stripe account. So we don't have to worry about payments going to third-party providers. Similarly, for Xero, you can authorize Xero directly from within the system. So we've built this little integration that allows us to connect directly to Xero, create an available connection, and so on. So setting up your Xero account is literally as simple as that. And that's it, it's now configured. So it's just making things easy. Similarly for job form, for medical assessments, medical consent and history, e-print configuration, reputation management. So Google My Business, connect all your different social accounts and they'll get pushed, and your ClickSend. So that's some of the capability that that's within there. It's fairly comprehensive at this stage. And letters, you can generate letters instantly, or you can set up letter templates. So you don't have to write letters all the time. So we've got an extraction letter here. We can put whatever information we want into the letter and save it. I'll find the letter. We sent out a patient recall letter. So you set that up using templates. You set up whoever's sending it, their user signature goes in, and that gets pulled directly from their profile, dear patient, and so on. But it's very powerful templating in that you can create letters, but you can also create reusable or targeted pieces of content that get sent to different people dependent on who's receiving them. So I can go in and create a content section. So this is patient-centric, but that will put different information in dependent on whether you're sending it to a patient, they're a parent of a patient, or a dentist. So it saves a lot of time. There's a help center within here, so you can access training videos, chat, FAQs, contact the team. So yeah, I mean, I don't really want to. I think that's I think it's really the question of the art of what's possible with Wappler. You know, it's all Bootstrap, it's all Wappler, but it's just designing it and delivering it and making it, bringing it all together is all perfectly feasible within a low code, no code solution.
Wow. When you say fairly comprehensive, John, I think that's the understatement of the day. This is amazing. And I loved your comment of the art of Wappler. That's fabulous. We've got some questions. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, John?
No, I think I've probably said enough. Again, it's just a flavor of what the system can do and what you can do with Wappler. And I do, you know, I'm on the forums. I do try and help people when I have time. My handle is @Scolaris, and I do welcome people with questions. I will find the time to help you if I can. And I've learned it by basically getting my head down and working my way through it. And I know, you know, on the forums, there's a lot of people, as an example, coming in from Bubble. Now, I've tried Bubble, and I immediately, within a couple of days, realized it wasn't for me, because you can't build valuable commercial technology like this. You know, we've built this in a short space of time and have an enterprise value in excess of $5 million. You're not going to ever do that with Bubble, unfortunately. You know, it isn't an option. But equally, Bubble will allow you to get up and running very quickly because they're very, very focused on, and the capability is hardened. Wappler is more challenging. I'm not, you know, that's a fact. That's a simple fact. But if you put the time in, you can get there.
That's wonderful work you've accomplished through Wappler. We've got some questions here in the chat that I'd like to, do you have time for questions, John?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. Got some questions here in the chat. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to type in the chat. I'll be more than happy to get them to John. The first question is on your database. Is this one large database, or do you have a separate database for each practice?
No, it's one large database. It's multi-tenanted, so it's basically it's using primary keys and secondary keys. So, you know, I can run a query on the patient database. It's in excess of 1.2 million patients. That's split across multiple practices. So it's one database, one set of tables. It's commonality across all, but the interface within Wappler, you always have to put in a practice ID. You're enforced to put a practice ID, which basically makes sure that you can't ever see anybody else's data.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. The next question is, you used a slider across the screen for like the patient flow and the diaries. What technology was that?
That's Wappler.
That's Wappler. It's not.
Yeah.
It's Bootstrap, or?
Yeah. That's the. Jump into Wappler, and I'm not sure what it's actually called within Wappler, but it's the standard slider.
Slider. Okay, cool. The you mentioned something else about you're storing information in a JSON-B versus a database.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that a bit for us?
Sure. We all understand typical relational database. You've got rows and columns, and the columns represent individual data points. What we found is that by just assigning a column, calling it a JSON-B, you can put loads more data into an individual column. So basically that patient record, when I retrieve that patient record, I'm effectively retrieving one record from the database, and all of the secondary and relational data is in the main is stored in JSON-B fields within that record. So it means that you're not out there joining dozens or 5 or 10 tables together within the database. You're basically pulling one record back, and that encapsulates all the data for a particular patient. Now, we don't do that for every relational join within the system, but we'll use it very regularly for a lot of information. So it's a really nice way of working with data, and particularly in Wappler, which is all JSON itself.
So the major benefit there is speed.
Speed, and you don't have to define all the individual columns. So you're not getting these big, wide columns, big, wide records. You're getting much slimmer records with lots of data in individual fields.
That'd make database management a whole heck of a lot easier, I would think.
It can do. You just need to make sure that you're doing the validation on the data at the point of entry and at the point of collection. So data integrity is a little more challenging because you don't have some of the not null and enforcements that you do have at the with row level, row and column level.
That makes sense. The you had mentioned something about a I'm sorry, I'm out of order here. When on your this social media tools that you're using, are you pulling from social media and publishing to social media?
Yeah, so a good example is Google reviews. So as soon as a review is posted, we get a call back from Google to say a new review has been made. We pull that in from Google, we put it into the system, we report that. If anybody is following that within their profile who wants to know about reviews, they'll be notified, then they can reply to the review. And it also gets added to the practice metrics. So basically whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, but it allows you to track back to the patient and maybe deal with the issue and have that Google review removed. And I don't know if you've ever had a bad review on Google as a business owner, but it's very annoying, particularly if you feel that it isn't right. If it doesn't reflect the reality of your business, then it's a mechanism to say, let's respond, let's get in front of that patient and let's deal with this and have them deleted and maybe give you a better review, work. But you'll do that if you have that instant access, and if it's there in the system, immediately you can action it. And then when you do get a good review and you can set the score, typically it's 4 or 5, then we can take that review and push it out to all your other social media channels. So you're getting free social media posts, very positive 4 and 5 reviews being pushed out to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and so on. So there's a lot of value in that because it's all about content.
Huge. That improves the credibility of the practice and the physician all at the same time. You had also talked about I loved your always on search. Got a question about, can you show us the Wappler's server action on the always on search? Is that something that might be possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just dig it out. I've got to figure out where it is within this. There's a lot of server actions in here, but
take your time.
I will patient search. Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so what I shall do, I will come back in and share my screen. And I'll share Wappler this time. So if I, as an example, if I go back to any page, but if I go into the patient record, so this is where everything happens. It's a big document, and it's 10,000 lines of code.
Holy cow!
The patient record, yeah, but it encapsulates everything that we're doing. So it's and the beauty of having it all there, once it's loaded, it's cached effectively. So it's never really a problem. It's just pulling the patient data down. But as we say, within Wappler, we have search, and that uses a search vector. So if you have a look here, here's my API. So we split the system into library actions. So things like different systems that we use, we call them through libraries. So here's our zero API, but it's written through a library, so it's reusable across all of our API calls, get secret tokens, invoices, and so on. And then all the callbacks come through our external facing APIs, so Stripe and Zero, Go Cardless, PDF Monkey, whatever it might be. All of those callbacks are there. But if we look at search within patients, so we've got patient search, and here's the action, and it's really very simple. So all it's doing is it's taking the search string that you've sent through. Let me just open this up, and it's trimming it, and then it's replacing spaces with a comma and then a star ampersand, and then it's tagging a star ampersand on the end. So what that's basically doing, it's talking the language of Postgres. So what they're saying to Postgres is, here's a search. It could be 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, up to a trigram or a quadgram, and it will break that into individual words, tag each word, and then it sends it off to Postgres. So here's the query that we call within Postgres. So we use custom queries in this case, and what we're doing here is basically saying, do we want to include or exclude discharged patients? So we're coalescing. It's just setting a flag, but this is just standard SQL. It'll be familiar to all of us. The key part here is p.search TSV. That's the like clause or the equal to clause within the lingua franca of Postgres. And we have basically set up these TS vectors within Postgres, and that gives us full text search. Now, it's highly performant. Again, it's only 1.2 million patients, but we're searching a lot of data. But it will bring it all together into one place. And we were using Elastic. So we had Elasticsearch, and we built all the Elastic interfaces, but we've decided now to remove. I mean, it's just one less thing in the stack, Elastic. And Postgres, we did all the benchmarking, and Postgres is perfectly capable of on delivering more performant full text search using these things called TS vectors.
And so that is absolutely amazing.
It's as simple as that, really.
Holy cow! So, what's next for this site? Do you have plans to add other features to it?
Yes, yeah, we've got 6 more integrations underway. One is a company called Dental Monitoring, where they've got this device. You put it into your mouth, and it uses AI to capture your teeth and in a sort of a 3D structure, and all that information will be coming back to us, and we'll be creating 3D models of it using DICOM files, standard format files. So we'll be integrating alongside. It's busy more medical integrations.
Cool. Are you using typically APIs for that?
Everything's done through the API. Let me just share that within Wappler again. Everything is through Wappler. So if you look at, here's Zero, all of the API interfaces, Stripe. We've built all of these from the ground up within directly with the API action. Create subscription. So yeah, we did I won't go into, but we just feel there's so much more control. I know the Wappler has its own Stripe interface, but unfortunately we've not had a lot of success with that. I mean, it's there, it will save you a little bit of time, but when you come up against an issue, it just burns time. So I think personally, for something like Zero and something like Stripe, the only way you're going to really understand the capabilities of those platforms is by getting down and dirty with your API connector and just doing it yourself. You know, and it's same for OAuth, you know, same for PDF generation. AWS, same thing, you know.
Have you noticed any, when like Stripe, for example, or one of the providers makes a change in their API?
No, there's regression testing and regression support tends. Yeah, we haven't had a concern and we haven't had an issue with it.
Okay, excellent, very good. All right. Well, John, I cannot tell you how grateful that we are for you investing the time today to share this fabulous site with us. It's comprehensive. It's very comprehensive. It's like soup to nuts from one end to the other. Obviously, you've been very successful at this, and I predict much more success in the future. And it's all built with Wappler. How did you put it? It's the art of what's possible in Wappler.
The art of the possible, yes. Yeah.
Art of the possible. I think that's fabulous. Absolutely.
I'm wearing my Wappler fan t-shirt today, you know. I do have days when I'm not wearing it, and some of you on the forums will see that. And I do throw my teddies out of the pram on occasion out of frustration. It's actually why we have the AWS Lambda element. So anything we find that we're struggling with, we'll just write some Python script and circumvent Wappler. But in the main, 90% all through Wappler, and the API connector that's the kicker. That one little bit of technology, that one server action there is your key to the universe.
Well, that's awesome. Very good. Well, I thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Mark. You can find me Mark1 on the forum. If Mark and the number 1 on the forum. If you are interested in making a presentation, whether it's a demonstration of a site or doing a live demo on a feature in Wappler, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out. Our next Wappler meetup is going to be on Friday, August 5th. Paul, aka PS Web, is going to be demonstrating creating a CMS with Wappler routing, leveraging Bootstrap frameworks and classes. And I thank you again for joining us, and we'll sign off now and wish everybody a wonderful rest of the day and a great weekend. John, thanks again and have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.